What's going on YouTube? Back here with another video today. In today's video we're going to be finally working on lowering the Lightning. If you guys know my truck, you know that I am known to be the 4x4 Lightning because it has always been stock stance with a lot of wheel gap. So today we're going to be addressing that by lowering the Lightning. So in today's video we're going to be focusing on the rear of the Lightning. We're going to try to eliminate all this wheel gap we have. And of course we're going to do some before and after measurements and get the true amount that we are able to lower it. And we took the simple route. There's many ways you can lower your Lightning. You can do shackles, hangers if you want to go lower than that, and all kinds of different stuff. You can remove one of the leafs or two of the leafs from the 0304 leaf springs because they do have extra leafs for the increased payload capacity. But we're not going to do any of that. We took the simple route. We are going to be installing the JLP 2 to 4 inch drop lowering shackles with some adjustable shocks. That's about all I really want to do to this thing. Supposedly you get up to 4 inches of drop with these shackles. Real world data suggests that you get really around 2.5 to 3. So we're going to put that to the test and see. But I think that's going to be perfect for this truck. I really don't want to go super low or anything. I just want to lower it down just a little bit, and then I want it to function because this is going to be a race truck, of course. We're not just looking to lower it and slam it and go to shows. I want to race this thing, so I want it to still be functionable. I just want to eliminate some of the wheel gap. So we're going to install JLP 2 to 4 inch drop shackles on the 4 inch setting, see what it really gets us. And then we picked up some strange engineering adjustable shocks for the rear. Now, these are the correct length for any truck that's 2 inches or lower. So this should fit perfect without the need for shock extenders. If you don't get the right length shocks and you want to use your stock length shocks, you're going to need shock extenders for it to fit properly. So these are the proper length without shock extenders. You don't need shock extenders. These are a good length for any truck that's dropped 2 inches or more. So that's why we got those. I didn't want to mess with shock extenders. I wanted the correct length shock. So we went ahead and picked these up. That is the part number. If you put that into Summit, they'll come up. And these are really good shocks to run. This is a proven method this is a proven shock to run in the rear. That's the correct length. They're 10-way adjustable. So they have 10 different adjustments from soft to stiff. So you can help dial in the launch for your truck. And these work really good. These are tried and true. A lot of guys run these and are really happy with them. So that's what we're going to be running. QA1 offers a comparable length shock that's also 18-way adjustable. These are 10-way. The QA1s have a little bit more adjustment, but they are twice the price. These were $80 a piece, so $160 for both, whereas the QA1s are $150 each. So literally we got both of these for just about the price of one QA1. So that's why we went with these. These are tried and true, much cheaper. Like I said, the QA1s are almost double the price. So we can get two for the price of one QA1, and these are going to work just fine. So, and one thing I want to note, when you order the strange rear adjustable shocks, it comes with all the hardware you need. It comes with the bushing setup here that you can see, and then this top nut that locks it down. It has the nylon stuff in the threads, so when you bolt it up, it'll lock the nut on there and the nut won't back off. However, it's extremely difficult to install with these nylon threaded nuts because once you get down to where you need to tighten it, the shock spins with the nut, so it's really hard to tighten it up. There's really nothing to hold the shock. There's like no welded in nut that you can put a wrench on or anything like that. And it's really difficult to get anything to hold this flat while you're tightening that nut. So there is a hack, so to say, that everybody does in the forums. It's a better way to go about it, and that's you go to your local hardware store, Ace, Lowe's, wherever, and you get yourself, this is 3/8-24 thread. You get one regular nut and then a jam nut. So instead of using this pain in the ass thing to put on, you thread down your regular nut, tighten it up to spec. You can see I already did it here. You tighten that up to spec, and then you just put the jam nut behind it and tighten that up as well, and that'll keep the nuts from backing out. This is a way better way to go. It's a lot easier than the nylon threaded nuts. So if you just go to your local hardware store, pick up 2 regular nuts, 3/8 24, and then 2 jam nuts to go behind it. And it's way better than the one they give you, trust me. A lot of people have this problem when they go to install these. This is a pain in the ass to do. They work fine if you could get to it, and if you come up with a way to do it, more power to you. But this is a much easier and better way to go. So that's what I did. You can see there, that's how it's pretty much gonna mount. Of course, mounting point is right in between these 2 bushings, and that's pretty much it. So we're gonna go ahead and take some measurements of how the truck sits now. I'm gonna do several ways to measure it. I'll go from the top of the tire to the bottom of the fender. I'll go from the middle of the wheel to the bottom of the fender, and I'll go from the ground to the bottom of the fender. That way you have several ways to look at it, measure it. However, because I've seen a lot of people complain that you can't really measure from the tire to fender because everyone's tire size will vary, so it's better to go from the center. But I'm just looking for real world data. If we measure from the top of the tire to the fender, I don't see a problem with it, because we can take the measurement, see where we're at, drop the truck, see where it's at after. But I'll go ahead and do several type of measurements. That way everybody's happy, and there's several ways to look at it. So I'm gonna grab a tape measure. I'm gonna take some measurements. All right, so we got our tape measure. We're measuring from the ground up to the fender. And it looks to me like 32 3/4 is pretty close. Just going eye level here with the fender. So just under 33. That's where we're at from the ground up, going up to the middle of the tire. And then we will do one. This is actually really hard to do with the GoPro. But we'll do one from the top of the tire. And it's not really center line of the tire. I'm more going to in line with that bolt there, so we have a good reference point. So straight up from the tire to that bolt looks to me like it is pretty close to about 6.5. So we'll just go with that. So 6.5 from the top of the tire. Well, not really center line top, but more just in line with that bolt. That's about as straight up as I can get it with my eye. And that'll be fine. We're just looking for a little reference point. And I'm gonna go with that bolt. So about 6.5 to there, and it was just under 33, 32 3/4 we'll say, from the ground to the top of the fender. I'm gonna go ahead and jack the truck up. I'm gonna jack it up by the pumpkin. We'll place some jack stands underneath where the leaf spring attaches, the leaf spring support, I guess you could call it, just in case. We'll kind of let it rest on those jack stands, and then just lift the pressure of the pumpkin off just to where it's still on the jack stands, but the pressure is off of the pumpkin and suspension, and we'll go from there. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start with the shackles. These are your stock shackles right there. We're looking towards the back of the truck. They're all the way, and that's what the leaf spring bolts to. You can see it there. And basically all you're going to need is a 21mm socket. You'll need 2 of them with 2 ratchets. I actually don't have that, so I have to use a torque wrench on loosen in order to hold the nut. And then at the top you'll have 1 there, and you'll need a deep socket because it does have the threads protruding, and then this locks itself, so you won't need 2 there. You basically just undo these 2 bolts. Your leaf spring, I think, will try to pop up. So I've seen a trick where you can take a little jack and kind of prop it in between here. That way it keeps the leaf spring in place, but I think we'll be fine. Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and undo these 2 bolts, take that out. But that's your stock shackle. And then the new shackle will go up in place. And I believe the top hole is for the lowest setting on down. I believe. I'm not 100% sure. I'm gonna have to honestly just bolt it up and see. But I'm thinking the further you raise this up, the more it'll pull the wheel upwards, lowering the truck, I think. So we're gonna go ahead and take this off, and we'll come back to you. All right, so as you can see, we got the new shackle on. I'm pretty sure this last hole to the top is the lowest setting, and on down, this would be the 3-inch, this would be the 2-inch, this is the 4-inch. Quick note, when installing these, you do not want weight on the pumpkin. Basically, what you want to do is I jack the truck up, put it on stands on the frame. That way all the weight is off the suspension. You do not want the jack on the pumpkin. You'll loosen these bolts, go ahead and take them out, and then to get this top bolt out, the frame rail is going to be in the way. You put the jack under the pumpkin and slowly jack the pumpkin until you'll see this leaf spring start raising until you can get the bolt out. That's pretty much it. And then I took the jack back off the pumpkin, lowered it back down, so it's sitting on these jack stands on the frame. And then yeah, just basically put the steel pin through the bushing that these come with. You'll put the bolts on, not very tight yet. Basically you'll want them just barely hand tight. You want to drop the chuck first, jump up and down on the back a little bit, and then tighten everything to spec. That way you don't have any binding. So right now this is just hand tight and it's on there. It wasn't really that bad, it's pretty quick. If you're having trouble getting your leaf spring to come down and line up these holes, a little trick I found is to take your jack handle, you kind of put it underneath the leaf spring there. I don't know if you guys can see it, but you see how I have it positioned like that? And you can just push up on this jack handle and it'll push your leaf spring down so you can line up the hole. That's pretty much what I did. Just use my jack handle as a little pry bar and pry it against the bed and push the leaf spring down, and that'll help you line up your bolt. That was probably the hardest part, was getting everything to line up, but it really wasn't too bad. Probably took me, I've been at it for 20 minutes maybe, so it's not too bad. It's a little longer than most, but I had to get it all figured out as far as whether I wanted weight on the axle or not, what was making it easier, what was not. So weight off the axle definitely made it easier. If you have any weight on the axle, it'll compress your spring upward and it makes it a pain in the butt. So take all the weight off it with your truck on jack stands and you should be good to go. A hammer and screwdriver help so you can knock the bolt out. It was a little bit of a pain in the butt, but it came out and it was pretty good. So we're gonna go ahead and do the other side, and then I will tell you how to do your shim for your pinion angle as well. I might do the whole pinion angle thing in another video as a separate video, because there's a lot to it and having correct pinion angle is super important. So I'll probably do that in another video, but we're gonna go ahead and do the other side real quick and come back to you guys. I don't know if you can see, we just took a little car jack and put it right there in between the leaf springs. That way when you tighten it, it helps push this leaf spring down so you can line up that bolt hole a lot easier. So that's a good little trick. Alright, as you can see, we got the other shackle installed. Went pretty easy once we placed that jack under the leaf spring. That's a good little trick to know. If you put it there first and then slightly jack up on the rear end to get that bolt out, let it back down, it kind of keeps the leaf spring where it needs to be for the shackle. You'll have to loosen up on it a little bit and then just the bolt slides right in. That was a really nice little trick to use. So yeah, shackles are done. Now we are going to work on the shocks. The driver's side is supposed to be the hardest because this bolt is kind of hidden underneath this tow package thing. You got to kind of sneak up through one of these little areas there, or you can kind of get it from outside the frame. Yeah, so either way it's going to be a pain in the butt to get to. Passenger side is not so bad because it's nice and open. You can get to the top bolt pretty easily. So that's what we're going to be doing next, and it shouldn't be too bad. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get to it. Alright, so we got the jack on the pumpkin again. Just have it up enough to make it a little loose on the shock, so basically just enough to take some pressure off of it. Two 18 millimeters for this bottom nut bolt combo here, and then I'm not sure what the top is off the top of my head. I want to say it's 9/16. We'll figure it out when we get there. For right now, we're going to take this bolt off. It's 18 millimeter on both sides, so that's what we got going on there. We're going to loosen that, and we'll figure out how to get to that top bolt here in a minute. Alright, so you guys can see at the socket on the nut there, and it is indeed a 21 millimeter. The only problem is you need the deep socket, but it can't be too deep. As you can see, I got the deep socket on there, but there's no room to get the ratchet on it. So I have the wife going up to the store to find a socket that's in between a shallow and that super freaking deep one that I have on there. This is just too deep and that leaves no room for the ratchet. So you'll need something in between this long one and the short one. I mean, like right in between would be perfect. So she's gonna go up to the store and get that. You can access it from right outside the frame rail there, but we can go ahead and start on the other side while we wait. Okay, as you can see, you have to put a wrench on the shock to keep it from turning. It's supposed to be an 18 millimeter. All I had was a 19, so it is loose, but it's working. It's just to hold the shock from spinning, and then you can loosen up that top nut. I already got my bottom loose, and then the shock should come right out. All right, we're done, as you can see, and everything bolted up. Basically just tighten this up until those bushings squish way down, get it nice and tight, and then what we did is we put a 9/16 wrench on the top nut, a pair of pliers on the flat, and just tightened it up pretty good. The official torque setting is supposed to be 22 to 29 foot-pounds, but we couldn't hold the shock still with the nut on there, so it's really hard to torque it. So we just tightened it up pretty good. You can see the bushings are nice and smushed, and it's pretty tight, so I'm sure that's going to be fine. And then just tighten up the jam nut behind it pretty tight. You're good to go there. The bottom nut down there, we went ahead and torqued it to 55 foot-pounds, and that's pretty tight, so we're good to go. It's pretty easy. It's really not that bad. The other side, we're still waiting on the wife to get back with something that's gonna fit up in there because my socket was too deep, and then that'll be bolted up. It's not that bad. One thing to note when putting these on, make sure your adjustment dial is facing down. That way it's easy to adjust. I could see it being real easy for someone to put these in, not realize that their dial is on the other side, and it'd be a little difficult to adjust it. So just make sure your adjustment dial is facing down. That way you can adjust your shocks at will whenever you want. 55 foot-pounds. I tried torquing this like I said, and it basically started getting to the point to where with the torque wrench on there, the shock was spinning. So we had to go ahead and use the wrench and then put something on the flat and just tighten the shit out of it. But yeah, basically once the shock starts spinning, it's pretty damn tight because these bushings squish down. So as long as it's nice and squished, that's really tight, and then the jam nut behind it's pretty tight, you'll probably be fine. But it looks pretty good. Alright, so I don't know how much of that you can see, but this is the way I'm getting this right here. Basically just a ratchet in this little space, and basically one goes a couple clicks back and then forward, back and forward. It takes forever. Now that's if you have a in-between deep socket. We didn't. So what we had to do is go from underneath the truck, snake through one of the openings where the spare goes with an 21 millimeter ratchet wrench. Is a pain in the ass, reach through the little holes and ratchet wrench that thing basically 2 clicks at a time until we could get a regular size socket on the end of it. We went all over town looking for a deep socket that's not too deep, and they don't have anything. So like I said, we just click by click, but it is finally coming, so we can get this last adjustable shock on and then on to the next and final step. So almost done. And now that I'm under here, I can kind of show you. I had to put my arm up through this hole here with a ratcheting wrench up through here, reach around, put it on the bolt, and literally click by click until I could get the regular size socket on. I do not recommend that. It sucked. So trying to find an in-between, a deep socket but not too deep, that you can get your ratchet on there and do it from outside through the fender well like I did it, because that sucked. But we got the old shock off. We're going to put the new shock on, same as the other side. Now as far as settings on these go, I did a little bit of research last night, and you'll want to run the rear at about 5 to 6 on the street, and then stiffen them up a few clicks when you're at the track. So at the track I'll probably try 7 or 8 maybe, start there. And then of course every truck will vary, you have to tweak it from there, but a good starting point I was told is 5 clicks, so we'll go ahead and do that. This is 2, 3, 4, 5, and we'll do that with the other one. Actually, we'll go ahead and run 6. We'll try 6. The more you turn it, the stiffer it gets, so we'll try 6 clicks, and then at the track we'll probably bump it up to 8, so it's nice and stiff. You want the rear pretty much as a lot of people run as stiff as it'll go, or just a few clicks under as stiff as it'll go. You want the rear nice and stiff. And then when we get the front adjustable shocks in, you want those really soft, basically almost as soft as they'll go, just a few clicks up. Then that's going to provide the best weight transfer, and the stiff shocks in the back will help plant the tires to the ground. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to start there. Like I said, every truck will vary, and it's not going to be the same for everybody, so you will have to play with it. You will have to basically just run it, see what it does, and adjust from there. But this is just a good starting point. And of course, that's going to also vary depending whether you have 18-way adjustables, 10-way adjustables, 12-way adjustables. But from everything I saw on the 10 ways, you want to run about 5 or 6. So that's about in the middle. So for the 18 ways, maybe you'll want to run 8 or 9, because that's about in the middle of that. And that's just a good starting point. So, all right. So we're all done. All the old stuff is here. And the truck looks pretty good. It didn't quite get the drop I expected, and I'll explain that here in a second. I'll go ahead and show you with the tape measure what we got. As soon as I can get the tape measure to come out. There we go. Alright, so we'll start with just the fender to the top of the tire. If you guys remember, it was about 7.5 before, and now, no, 6.5 before, sorry. Now we are at about 5.5. So we got about an inch drop. And same thing with the floor to the top of the fender. If you guys remember, it was just shy of 33, 32 3/4 maybe. And now we are just shy of 32. We're about 31 3/4. So overall, we gained 1 inch drop, which is kind of odd because they're 2 to 4 inch drop shackles. But I discovered exactly why. On the truck already was Beltec 2-inch drop shackles. I had no idea these were on there because I've never done anything suspension wise to this truck. As far as I was aware, it was stock, but we already had Beltec 2-inch drop shackles, so now that makes a little more sense on why we only got 1 inch worth of drop, which is fine. I mean, it doesn't look too bad. It's obviously not what I was looking for. I was hoping for a little more, so I might have to address that with maybe some fiberglass leaf springs. I'm thinking this is what I want to do. I know JLP is working on a new manufacturer for them to make some fiberglass leaf springs, and those are supposed to provide about 2 inches of drop, as well as shed a ton of weight. I think 80 pounds they save. So we'll probably go that route just to get a little more low in the back. It doesn't look bad, but it's definitely not what I was expecting, because I'm thinking it's stock ride height, and obviously it was not. But I mean, like I said, it's not too bad. We have a solution for the front already. That's in all those boxes there, and we'll get to that in another video. Today was just the rear. So like I said, we got about 1 inch worth of drop, but that was because we had 2-inch drop shackles. With stock shackles, if your truck is truly stock, you'll probably get more, around 3 inches worth of drop, which isn't bad. They're not bad. The install wasn't too bad. I'm really happy with the Strange Engineering shocks. One thing to note, I don't know if I went over this anywhere in the video or not, don't tighten anything up yet as far as the shackles go. Leave the shackle bolts just a little hand tight, and then you'll want to get on the bed. I had my wife on that side and me on this side, and jump up and down on the bed a little bit just to kind of preload and work the shackles a little bit, then tighten it. Basically, you want to do it under load, and of course these will settle a little bit as you drive, so I might get another 1/2 inch out of them. But so like I said, you'll probably look at about 3 inches worth of drop. If you have stock shackles, these are Beltecs, so that's why I didn't get the drop I thought I was going to get. Now the next thing you have to do is you have to, if you have an 03, 04, you have to spin the shims. There is a shim, and you have to spin them 180 degrees. I couldn't do that in today's video because I don't have any C-clamps, and you want to take a C-clamp to hold the leaf springs together so they don't move when you take the bolt out to spin the shim. So we're going to save that for another video. Basically, in the next video, what I'll do is I will spin the shims 180 degrees, 02 and prior. I don't think you have to worry about them. You just take the shims out altogether. And then I will teach you how to properly measure your pinion angle. That way it is correct. You don't want to guess. I know in the instructions it says just spin the shims and you're fine, but we're going to spin the shims and then measure pinion angle because it is super critical. A, for driving, like vibrations and stuff like that, but B, for hooking. You're never going to hook if your pinion angle isn't correct. So all that's coming in the next video, guys. I kind of just ran out of time, don't have the right tools, so at least that's installed for now. We'll do the shims and the pinion angle in the next video. I wish I would have knew that I already had drop shackles on the truck, obviously. I don't think it would have changed anything. I probably still would have went with the JLP because they do provide a little more. As you can see, we got an inch. It's not that bad. Ask your wife, every inch counts. But I'm a dork. But anyways, yeah, that's pretty much it. I think that's gonna be it for today's video. So make sure you drop a thumbs up, guys. It really helps the channel. Like the video. Go down there and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think of it. If you have any constructive criticism, that's fine too. I'm not perfect. Go ahead and just tell me what you think. If I did anything wrong, blah blah blah, whatever. And of course, if you're not already, subscribe to the channel for more. Plenty more to come on the Lightning, guys. This is just the start, and yeah, you don't want to miss any of these videos. So make sure you subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.